In one American state, more people are leaving than being born. The schools are getting quieter, the businesses are boarding up, and the people still there are mostly trying to figure out how much longer they can afford to stay. This isn't a trend, it's a pattern, and it's happening in states you recognize, states that used to mean something, states that promised something. They stopped being able to deliver. People aren't just leaving for better weather or cheaper rent. They're leaving because staying started to feel like a punishment. We're counting down 10 states Americans are quietly escaping right now, and the brutal, uncomfortable truth behind every single exit. Like this, if you want data that actually means something. Subscribe if you'd rather know now than find out when it's too late. Let's go. Number 10. Louisiana, where resilience has an expiration date. Louisiana gave the world jazz, Creole cuisine, Mardi Gras, and the best gumbo you will ever eat in your life. What it cannot seem to give its own residents is an insurance policy that doesn't cost more than the mortgage. Louisiana lost 55,000 more residents than it gained over the 5 years from 2020 to 2025. The only southern state to post negative net migration over that entire period. Florida gained 1.8 million people in the same window. Texas gained 2 million. Louisiana lost. The domestic outmigration rate ranked among the 7 worst in the entire nation in 2024. 17,000 more people left than arrived that year. The insurance market is in freefall. 70,000 flood insurance policies were dropped in Louisiana between 2022 and 2024 alone. When Hurricane Ida hit, it didn't just flood neighborhoods. It started an insurance crisis that is still swallowing people whole. Homeowners can't sell, buyers can't insure, and the people stuck in between are doing the math on whether staying makes any financial sense at all. One resident summed it up the way only a Louisiana native can. We survived the storm. We just can't survive what came after it. Louisiana doesn't lose people because they hate it. They leave because they love it and they're exhausted. Resilience has an expiration date, and for a lot of Louisiana families, that date has quietly passed. Number 9. West Virginia, where the mountains feel like walls. West Virginia has been losing people longer than most states have had a coherent policy about it. The population declined in nearly every decade since the 1950s. In 2024 to 2025, it was one of only 5 states in the entire country to lose population. Deaths outpaced births by nearly 8,000 people in a single year. The state has been aging faster than it can replace itself. Labor force participation sits at around 54%, dead last in the nation. Half the state is not working. Half of that half is not planning to. The median household income is $63,000, one of the lowest in the country. Opioid overdose rates remain among the highest in America. Half the state's counties are classified as economically distressed, and yet the cost of living is 17% below the national average. You can rent a house for almost nothing. The problem is, almost nothing is also what the economy is offering back. One longtime resident said it with the kind of dark accuracy that only comes from staying too long. If you live here long enough, the mountains start to feel like walls. Every politician drives in wearing flannel, stands in front of a closed mine, gives a speech about dignity and potential, and leaves before the echo fades. Meanwhile, the young people are already packed and loading the truck. Number 8. Oregon, the state that ran the experiment and didn't like the results. Oregon spent most of the 2010s being the most interesting state in America. Livable cities, outdoor culture, no sales tax, Portland as a national symbol of urban cool, then something unraveled in public, on camera. Oregon was one of the top outbound states in both 2024 and 2025 according to National Moving Company data. Thousands more people left than arrived. The state had one of the lowest net domestic migration rates in the West. Portland's downtown office vacancy hit 35% in early 2025, the highest in the entire nation. Measure 110, which decriminalized possession of hard drugs, became the most discussed drug policy in American history, was implemented in 2020 and was reversed in 2024 because the street conditions it helped create became impossible to defend. Target left Portland. REI closed their flagship store. Walmart closed. The companies didn't leave because the ideology was wrong. They left because the implementation didn't work and nobody fixed it before it became a national story. One Oregon resident said what a lot of people were already thinking. We ran the experiment. We got the results. Nobody liked the results. Oregon isn't a failed state. It's a state that tried something ambitious, watched it not work, and is now paying for it in population and property values while the rest of the country moves on and pretends they wouldn't have made the same mistakes. Number 7. New Jersey. Leaving is the new state sport. New Jersey lost more residents to other states than almost any other in the country for years running. Among the highest outbound to inbound moving ratios in the United Van Line's National Movers Study. Property taxes are the highest in the nation, averaging nearly $10,000 a year. Not in a luxury neighborhood. Average. The cost of living index is nearly 20% above the national average. Median rent for a one-bedroom in Hoboken sits near $3,000. And the job market, such as it is, mostly involves commuting 90 minutes to Manhattan, paying New Jersey taxes, and getting a ill view of a skyline you cannot afford to enjoy. The people leaving aren't the ones who hate New Jersey. They're the ones who did the math. One former resident described the departure the way most people feel it. You stay for the nostalgia and leave when you realize nostalgia doesn't pay your property tax bill. New Jersey acts like a premium product, but charges fees that make the experience feel like a financial intervention. Meanwhile, in Tennessee, you can buy a 4-bedroom house, keep your paycheck, and still have enough left over to actually enjoy the state you live in. New Jersey will not send you off kindly. It will send you off with a final bill, a pothole memory, and a Wawa coffee you'll spend the rest of your life trying to replicate. Number 6. Massachusetts. Harvard can't save everyone. Massachusetts is one of the most educated, most innovative, most historically significant states in the country. It gave America the Revolution, the first public school, some of the world's greatest universities, and a healthcare model the rest of the nation spent 2 decades arguing about. It is also losing residents at a rate that those universities would not be proud to publish. Massachusetts ranked in the top 5 states for net domestic outmigration in both 2023 and 2024, according to IRS data. Losing over 26,000 net tax filers in a single year. High-income earners leaving at a disproportionate rate, taking their adjusted gross income with them to Florida and Texas. The cost of living is among the top 5 highest in the nation. Median home prices in the Boston metro require an annual income approaching $200,000. The state income tax tops 9% for higher earners after a 2022 ballot measure that passed narrowly and immediately started appearing in moving company data. One departing professional said it with the kind of precisi sai on that only comes from someone who has already signed the lease in another state. Massachusetts charges you for greatness and then forgets to provide the parking. The universities stay. The talent increasingly doesn't, and a state that built its identity on brainpower is now watching that brainpower quietly calculate a better return on investment somewhere with a lower tax rate and a driveway. Number 5. Illinois, the state that sends you an invoice and a shrug. Illinois lost over 550,000 residents since 2014. That is the entire city of Atlanta walking out the door without looking back. New Jersey, Illinois, New York, and California consistently hold the top 4 spots for highest outbound to inbound moving ratios in national data year after year. Illinois is reliable in that way. Property taxes average $9,500 per year, among the highest in the nation. State debt sits at nearly $144 billion in unfunded pension liabilities. A number that has been growing for 30 years and been solved exactly 0 times. The only state in America where pension debt tops $100 billion. Chicago lost residents for 9 consecutive years. And yet Illinois has world-class universities, a legendary food scene, transit infrastructure, and cultural institutions that would make most states blush. None of that matters when the financial math stops working and you realize the city is charging you luxury prices for a product that keeps sending you repair estimates. One longtime Chicago resident said what everyone already knew. This state is like a luxury condo that stopped maintaining the building but kept raising the HOA fees. You pay everything. You still hit potholes the size of broken promises. Illinois doesn't lose people because it's boring. It loses them because one morning they do the math, look at Indiana just across the border, and realize the same job pays the same, and the house costs 40% less. Sometimes the exit isn't dramatic. Sometimes it's just arithmetic. Number 4. New York, the most expensive breakup in American history. New York has lost more residents to domestic outmigration than any other state in the country. Over 1 million people moved out of New York to other states in the 5 years since 2020. That is not a statistic. That is a statement. 2 million more people moved out of California and New York combined than moved in between April 2020 and July 2023. New York's share of that was enormous, and it has not slowed. The state income tax tops 13% in New York City when you stack state and city rates. Housing in Manhattan requires income levels that put it out of reach for the vast majority of Americans. IRS data shows a net loss of over 108,000 tax filers in a single year, taking their adjusted gross income to Florida and Texas. One departing New Yorker said it with the kind of exhausted poetry that only New York produces. New York doesn't break you. It just bills you until you break yourself. And the most expensive part isn't the rent. It's realizing the city never noticed you were gone. New York will always pull people in. The mythology is too powerful, the energy too real. But the people being pushed out are not the dreamers. They are the nurses, the teachers, the firefighters, the people who keep the dream functioning for everyone else. When a city or a state prices out the people who keep the lights on, it isn't in decline. It's in denial. Number 3. Hawaii, Stockholm Syndrome, with a better view. Everyone dreams of Hawaii until they have to pay for it. Hawaii has posted population losses for multiple consecutive years and consistently ranks among the top states for net domestic outmigration. More people keep leaving than the state can replace. The median home price statewide sits around $800,000, more than double the national average. Average rent runs close to $2,000 a month across the islands. In Honolulu, a one-bedroom starts at $2,300. Groceries cost nearly 60% more than on the mainland. A gallon of milk costs nearly $8. That is not paradise. That is Stockholm Syndrome with palm trees and a monthly bill that makes you question every life decision since college. Tourism is booming. Wages are stuck in 2005. The people leaving are not tourists who tried it and didn't like the weather. The people leaving are the ones who made Hawaii, Hawaii. Generations being uprooted from land their families surfed and farmed for a century, replaced by vacation rentals and remote workers who treat the islands like a screensaver they can live inside. One local said it the way only a local can. Living here feels like winning the lottery and then being immediately taxed 110%. Hawaii isn't losing its beauty. It is losing the people who gave that beauty its soul. And when those people are gone, what's left is just the postcard. Number 2. California, the dream that finally read its own fine print. California is still the most populous state in the country. It is still the world's 5th largest economy. It is still the place where more people arrive than almost anywhere else on Earth. And it is still losing domestic residents faster than almost any other state has in modern American history. A net outmigration of over 340,000 people in a single year. The largest chunk, roughly 77,000, moved to Texas alone. In 2024 to 2025, California dropped by 9,000 residents overall, the largest raw population loss of any state, the only major economy in the country posting a decline. The most common reasons people give when they leave are always the same 3: housing, taxes, and a growing sense that the California they believed in and the California they actually live in have become two completely different places. The top income tax rate is 13.3%. The median home price requires a salary approaching $300,000 in the Bay Area. Over 817,000 residents left in 2023 alone. Living in California is like being in a relationship with someone so beautiful and so magnetic that you keep telling yourself the chaos is part of the charm. Right up until the insurance company sends a letter, the utility bill arrives, and you do the math on what that same life would cost in Arizona. California will never stop being California. But the version of California that everyone imagined is slowly becoming only available to the people who can afford to hold the illusion together. Number 1. Mississippi, the state that never pretended the dream was for everyone. Mississippi has been losing residents for most of the last 15 years. The median household income is $44,966, the lowest of any state in the country, not the second lowest. The lowest. The poverty rate sits at nearly 19%, nearly double the national average. Child poverty tops 27%, the highest in the nation. Education performance is consistently bottom 5 nationally. Healthcare access is bottom 5. Half of the state's counties carry the federal designation of persistently poor. Not as a metaphor. As an official government classification that means a county has had poverty rates above 20% for 30 years or more. And yet Mississippi has produced more American music, more American literature, and more raw cultural genius per square mile than almost any other place on earth. Faulkner, B.B. King, Muddy Waters, Eudora Welty, Tennessee Williams, the blues, the stories, the food, the rhythm of a place that the rest of the country visits for the culture and abandons for the policy. One Mississippi native said it the way that only someone who loves a place and has watched it fail them can say it. I love Mississippi the way you love someone who swears they'll change every decade. You never stop loving them. You just stop being surprised. The young leave for opportunity. The old stay for roots, the rest survive in between. Drive 30 minutes outside of Jackson and it is like stepping through a time warp. Broadband is still considered a luxury. Hospitals have closed. The boots cost more than the hourly wage. Mississippi is not America's forgotten state. It is America's most honest state, the one that never put a filter on the math, never promised more than it could deliver, and has been quietly paying for everyone else's illusions for 100 years. If you've ever loved a place and watched it not love you back the same way, you already understand Mississippi without ever having been there. Subscribe, because America is shifting faster than the headlines can track, and this channel is where you find out what's actually moving before it becomes the story everyone already knew too late.